Morning all. G Dimple 66, morning. Aria Gani, morning. Morning, Roxanne. Thank you for my brooms as always. Arlene Lewis, morning. Yes, Roxanne, I overslept this morning. That rain was, heavenly. Almost postponed the live to tomorrow. Adarami X, morning. Carol Boyce John, morning to you. Carol says, I see that the Duns have started their propaganda about Trump and sanctions against TNT. Yes. I hear you, Roxanne. Gillian Jackson, morning. Ruckman Gangadi, morning to you. Wazid, morning. Leon Joseph, morning to you, sir. Leon Graves, morning. Cyril Mayas, morning to you. Annette Baird, morning, Annette. Alberta Sampath, morning. Denise Bramble, morning. Jenny Cupid James, morning to you. Dexter St. John, morning, Dexter. Morning, Shah. Leon says they're having some weather in Toko this morning. Yeah, the weather here bipolar, Leon. Got some decent rain last night, so that was good. Marilyn McAllister, morning. Jennifer Ashby Okoli, morning to you. Kurt Shaw, morning, sir. Patty Kutu, morning, East West. Donna Rogers, morning. I'm on Facebook. Ashton Clark, morning to you, sir. Sir Alicia Alman de Roche, morning. Morning, Diane. Maynard Lazare, morning. Jennifer Nathan, morning to you, Jennifer. Gemma White Isaac, morning, Gemma. Judy Small, morning. Arthur James, Joy Ragunanan, Sarah Richards, morning, guys. Judy Bowen, morning, Judy. Rick Williams is saying trouble in the PNM camp. I don't know what trouble you're referring to. But Dave Emmanuel, morning. Christopher Coffee, Sherwin Humphrey, morning, sir. Nadia Lewis Dixon, morning, Nadia. Rudolph Barnett, Marvel James, morning to you. Sechelle Lambert, morning. Julian Parker. Jennifer Dossett, morning. Jillian is Pascal, morning, Jillian. Anne-Marie Montique, morning, Anne-Marie. Sandra Thomas, Victoria Isidore, morning. Morning, Carol. Carol, how is the weather by you? Bipolar, just like on my side. We're supposed to get some rain today, but Rude, morning. Junior Neverson, Selma Lashley. Morning to all of you guys. Patty Kutu, Vienna Pamashwa, morning. Vienna says it's raining in Chagonas. Chagonas is always be fortunate to get some rain. Shadley Jimenez, morning. And Niles, morning to you. Carol says it's rainy today. Anadai Dulba, morning. Sarah Richards, Claire Carrington, Pamela O'Connor, morning to you guys. Dexter James, morning, sir. Deborah Edgell, Rick Williams. Rick is saying Twiggy for UNC. I seem to recall Twiggy was suspended from the PNM a few years ago because of utterances that she would have made. I think it was after the 2010 election or something like that. She, Harry Ragunanan, and a couple others were suspended. But this is nothing new on the part of Twiggy. For persons who've been following Twiggy's Facebook page, you would see that quite often she would have posted videos, lives with David Nackett and Julian John come to visit her. And look, my brother, look, my sister, come and see me, all your thing, and all of that. Yeah? She has praised Mururul Munilal in the past and, talking about all the great things that Kamala Prasad Bisesa has done and the PNM and doing nothing for the youth. Anybody who Well, everybody is aware of the Ministry of Youth Development and National Service. So they know that claim on the part of Twiggy is false. And she knows that very well. She knows that because she knows Foster Cummings personally. She's also had videos where Foster Cummings would have visited East Dry River, and she took him on a personal tour of East Dry River to show him areas that could be developed for the benefit of the youth in the area. She knows fully well. So all these things that she talking about, when Kamala was there, Kamala helped them and Kamala helped them, but wouldn't go into the granular details of how Kamala helped them. Who's that? East Dry River. How did she help you? And I keep saying, color me orange. Is that what you consider help for the people of East Dry River? $69 a day to paint dilapidated buildings. How did she help? And she wanted to sell those same dilapidated buildings and apartments to the current residents for $100. And in so doing would have relinquished responsibility from HDC to maintain these buildings if anything happened, right? Because if these people are the new owners and the HDC is no longer the owner, therefore these people have to find the money to fix these buildings. Is that the help that she gave to them? Because I'm certain Twiggy would be hard pressed. When Prasad Bisesa was Prime Minister, and one of the first things they did when they came in was to fire 527 CPAP workers because they said that they were PNM. How many of those CPAP workers came from East Dry River? And this government had to end up paying over $20 million in restitution to these persons. Is that how Prasad Bisesa helped? You see these people trying to rewrite history and paint Kamala Prasad Bisesa as this great savior and all kind of nonsense. And a lot of that they're talking about has come from their own personal gain. They get. Others didn't. When you compare what they would have gotten to what the crumbs that Prasad Bisesa and the PNM would have, not the PNM, sorry, the UNC and the People's Partnership would have offered, chalk and cheese. But, I wouldn't be surprised if Naked whispering in her ears and Jolene and so on stir up some couture and bacchanal natui. Nothing this government has ever done has pleased her. Nothing. She has always said she's supporting Penny, and because when she works HDC, and when Penny was Minister of Housing, and she went to Minister and all of that, and Minister. But you vex because you're claiming, Penny rollover and whatnot. It is a democratic process that took place. Democratic process took place. There were two nominees, and the people who could vote voted. And they selected Stuart Young, and therefore, collective responsibility, unity, the minority supports the majority. 11-9, when they went into the process, it was on the understanding that we would all support whoever is the winner of the vote. That's how it works. In those instances and those circumstances, it's a fair vote. If anybody was opposed to the process, they had an opportunity to declare that prior to the vote and say, look, I don't think this is the right way to do it, whatever, we discuss it. And everybody having cast their ballot means that they supported the process. So if the outcome of the process is not to your liking, you can't do nothing about it. At the end of the day, you made the choice to participate in the process. And in participating in the process, you accepted that whatever the outcome, you will accept. But Twiggy and these guys have their ulterior motives, right? So, but in the grand scheme of things, her opinion is inconsequential because the only areas that she could seek to influence, where her voice has some weight, is in East Dry River, in the constituencies of Port of Spain South, which is Keith Scotland's constituency, which I believe East Dry River falls in, and maybe to some extent Laventille. But I don't think that her utterances or her influence is strong enough. Well, it's never been strong enough before to wrest those seats from the PNM, and certainly not now. So she could ring bell and shake her crystal ball and predict that the PNM is going to lose. I seem to recall her making the same prediction in 2023 that the PNM was going to lose the local government election. And that prediction did not come to pass. right? So, yeah, I tell you. Oh, Lord. Interesting. So we see that day one is finally over. The dreaded day one for many people have been following threads, and you have a lot of Americans who are, expressing their consternation, their concern, their worry. They're just to persons and U.S. citizens talking about who have U.S. flags outside their homes, talking they're going about flying the flag at half mast for the next 4 years. Some of them have replaced it with black flags indicating a nation in mourning. Um, you know, there are some of them who talking about leaving the U.S. for the next 4 years and probably moving to Europe. I've seen a couple of celebrities who have in fact done so. Um, and I can honestly say I could I say that, right? I think Trump is perhaps the most hated US president by American citizens. And in other instances where, for instance, when Barack Obama won and Joe Biden won, I think there was not hate on the part of those who didn't vote for them, but rather intolerance. But with Donald Trump, a different way. When you read some of the comments that these people are putting out here, it's amazing, really, really amazing. The man is not liked by a lot of people. Of course, his supporters will like him, and some of them not so much after having spent a ton of money to attend the inauguration, hoping that they would have gotten a seat on the National Mall to be able to witness in person what they are calling history in the making, only to be disappointed by, just like what Kamala Prasad says on UNC, who treat her like a goddess. These Republican supporters who treat Trump like a god, a man who could do no wrong, and they would totally ignore all of his transgressions. Well, some of them are very disappointed. In fact, there's a lot of videos where persons they would have been interviewed, and they were saying, "Well, I saw one or two guys who came all the way from Oklahoma, and they were saying, well, this sucks because they spent how much money for plane ticket and to rent room, hotel room and all of that, and only to be told that they will not be able to witness the swearing in live." And they're saying because of weather. And one guy says, "Well, we live in Oklahoma, and we have cows, and we can't say because the weather is cold that we're not going to feed the cows." So, yeah, that's what happened. And yes, we have a lot of them who are upset. So yesterday, as promised, Mr. Trump would have signed a number of executive orders, quite a few. Some rather interesting. Among them, of course, the executive order that seeks to put an end to birthright citizenship, where if you are born in the United States but your parents are not American citizens or they are undocumented immigrants, you lose your citizenship status. All right. That also includes, those trainees who love to run up to the US to make their babies, to have their babies there so the child can have US citizenship. No more of that. Well, at least for the time being, because an executive order, from what I understand, not all of them are going to immediate effect because some would require the intervention of Congress. I think that birthright one would require that because it is enshrined in the US Constitution that once you are born in the United States, you are considered to be a citizen. So you cannot amend the Constitution simply by executive order. That would require a vote of Congress, both houses, I think. And with the razor-thin majority that the Republicans have, because right now it's 218 to 215 with the resignation of Matt Gaetz, and I can't remember the other guy. And there are two others who are supposed to resign because Donald Trump would have tapped them to be part of his administration. So unless and until the special elections are held to replace these persons, it seems as if the margin in the House of Representatives would be in the order of 215 to 216, which is razor thin. So it means that Mike Johnson, the speaker, while that situation persists, cannot afford to lose the support of any Republican on any matter. And we know that might be difficult because despite the fact that they have a majority, the Republicans are usually very divided on a number of things, right? So what the Democrats need to do now is to capitalize, as they say, strike while the iron is hot. Capitalize on the angst that currently exists, particularly amongst those who support the Democrats, those lazy persons who chose not to go out and vote on November 5th and who are now regretting that decision. So in this first instance, I think the first special election is supposed to be held in April to replace Matt Gaetz. So they need to work on that. I think, as I said, if you capitalize now on the angst and the disappointment and the fear and the concern, you might be able to get some people who fail to do their duty in November. You could probably get them to come out now and at least try and do something to reduce that Republican majority in the House, to give them a fighting chance until the midterm elections 2 years from now in 2028, November of 2028, where they have a chance to take back either one or both houses of Congress. But for now, it is what it is. I think in the Senate is 53-47, which is still a very consequential lead because, that's sufficient for Trump to make changes to the Supreme Court, as he did last time when he got the opportunity to appoint 3 Supreme Court judges, which totally changed the face of the Supreme Court. And the Democrats have had to pay the price for that. So we see how that goes, right? But I was just looking at some of the executive orders, and as I said, that particular one stood out for me, birthright citizenship. There was something else, a couple others that he did that what was it, boy? The drill, baby drill, so they did an interview with some indigenous Americans who are saying, well, like the American Indians, the original inhabitants of the US, right, who are saying that it's going to impact them because where they're planning to drill, the pipeline will pass through their reservation and so on, and they are at the risk of the cancers and all, and the pollution and all of these different things. They are in the direct path of that, and they are expressing some level of concern, and Joe Biden would have tried to protect them. But you see how that goes. Well, day one, to be noted on day one, contrary to his promise, the war between Russia and Ukraine was not ended. The price of eggs and the price of milk did not fall. What he did do was to launch a meme coin, cryptocurrency called Trump, and he was able to capitalize on the momentum, and the price went from $6 all the way up to $70-something, and people who would have jumped on, made money, jump out, and now the people who jumped on late, they're in some problems. And then persons are saying that this was a blatant attempt to manipulate the cryptocurrency market because Trump's stake in the coin was over some $70 billion. So the price has been constantly falling, and it went from a high of about 75. It's now down to $39.03 as of this morning. So persons who would have gotten at the higher end, once again, you got screwed by Trump. Okay. Right. Rick Williams is saying the PNM will only get 1 seat in this general election because of what Rowley did. What did Rowley do? It's too early for it to be disturbing, man. Come on, man. What did Rowley do? As he raised that, and it reminded me yesterday. Yesterday I was doing some reading, and I was reminded of the hypocrisy of Kamala Persad-Bissessar and the UNC, in particular as it pertains to their position or their posture on the leadership transition in the PNM, right? And they have been saying, Dr. Rowley has subverted democracy in the PNM because he's trying to force your young people throat, and And the people supposed to have a say, and general council and the people, and it's the membership who's supposed to decide. That's what they've been saying, right? You all remember in 2005, not talking to Rick here. You remember in 2005 when it is Pandey wanted to change leadership of the UNC? I remember that. And they installed Winston Dukaran as the leader, and that resulted in a bit of a upheaval. Who voted for Winston Dukaran? Did they go to the membership of the UNC for them to vote for Winston Dukaran to become the political leader? Political leader, understand? They have one man, one vote, just as the PNM. But it was Pandey who installed. Dukaran was installed unopposed. Where was the democracy in the UNC? Did you UNC supporters cry and complain, oh, we ain't get a vote and democracy and the people supposed to speak? This same hypocrite Kamla Persad-Bissessar, you all remember in 2007 when she delivered her No Woman, No Cry speech, when she had on her shades and whatnot, and she talked? I can read it for you. You remember what was the impetus for that No Woman, No Cry speech? Because she was disappointed that Pandey didn't hand her the leadership of the UNC. Right? She was disappointed in that after Dukaran decided to take his Jahaji bundle and walk and create the Congress of the People. And she thought, well, okay, vacancy exists and Pandey would have made her political leader, and he didn't do that, and he took it back. You remember? That famous No Woman, No Cry speech. And she talked about how she was so hurt and she cried and whatnot and thing, and she felt sidelined by the men in the party and all of these different things. Why did she do that? She was upset because Pandey didn't anoint her as leader and hand her leadership without the input and contribution of the membership of the UNC. That is what she was upset about. And from then she kept that in her craw until 2010 when she challenged him for the leadership through the correct means, and she was able to become political leader. But she wanted Mr. Pandey to hand her leadership, to put the crown on her head, without consulting the membership. So when all your blasted UNC hypocrites want to come and talk about what Rowley did, right? When all they want to come and talk about that, remember, you all did it first. But at least there was a process followed with respect to Dr. Rowley. What process did you all follow? Did Pandey consult the others? No. He simply said, we put in Dukaran and I will become chairman of the party, but I will remain opposition leader because Dukaran wasn't in the parliament at the time. And that caused a whole set of upheaval and all kind of thing. So let's forget that. Let's forget that. Right? And again, when you want to come and talk about what Rowley did and what Rowley did, what did Rowley do? Rowley did a lot with less than what Persad-Bissessar had. Right? And all of you hypocrites and ingrates who now paying less taxes because Rowley increased your personal allowance 3 times. Rick, how many times did Kamla Persad-Bissessar increase it? 0, zilch, nada. She came in and met it at 60 and she left it at 60. But Rowley increased it from 60 to 72, right? And then 72 to 84, and then 84 to 90, which is where it is at today. So thousands of citizens in this country no longer pay income tax because the wicked Rowley increased all your personal allowance. You all ungrateful wretches. But you will never speak about that, right? And that constitutes a pay raise. Because while you all keep talking about, oh, Kamla gave 14% to the public servants, what did she give to the private sector? What did she give to them? You know what Keith Rowley did? He gave them a pay raise by increasing their personal allowance 3 times. He gave them that. So when her 14% only applied to the public service, Keith Rowley took actions that benefited the entire country, public and private sector. But all they don't talk about that. She met VAT at 15% and left it at 15%. And she come and fool all you and say, we take VAT off of 7,000 food items. None of you can tell me what the 7,000 food items are. Just like what her counterpart in the US did. Hoodwink the people and talk about, yeah. So what they did, if you have 10 different brands of a particular food, we count that as, yeah. So it have 20 different brands of tuna fish. We say that is, she take VAT off for 20 food items right there. But tuna fish is one thing. Whether it's Brunswick or wherever is the other brands, tuna fish is tuna fish. You can't count 20 brands and say that is 20 things you take VAT off of. But all they like to talk rubbish. And I keep telling you all, that did not work. I don't have the time this morning to read the article. VAT offer food flops. It did not work. And what did the then Minister of Trade and Industry say when it was brought to his attention by the head of the Supermarkets Association that not only it did not bring down the price of food, it actually caused the price to go up because the wholesalers sought to capitalize on the opportunity to dig out and gouge out the eyes of the citizens. So prices, instead of going down, went up. And all of us and Barrett said, well, if that is so, it is most unfortunate. But there's nothing else we could do. Nothing else we could do. So when she's trying to convince you all now that put me back in office and I will do that again because Rowley add back the VAT to the 7,000 food items, but we will put it back and we will bring down the cost of living. Same promises Trump made that he would use tariffs to bring down the cost of living because he will put tariffs on food stuff that's coming into the United States, and that is supposed to serve as an incentive or force these foreign manufacturers to come and set up shop in the United States and produce their food stuff in the US. But Trump fails to realize that the countries that import or export the most amount of stuff to the United States of America don't need the US. Because while the US has a population of 335 million, China has a population of about 1.4 billion people. Okay? Almost 5 times that of the United States. So they have a much bigger market. That is why the Chinese economy is the largest economy today. India has a population of about, 1.2, 1.3 billion? And you have the rest of the world. You have Russia and you have the Caribbean and all these different places. Why it is that you think our food import bill went from 5 billion to 7 billion? It's because we import in more stuff. So if it is he imposes tariffs, the only thing that is going to do is to add a tax and increase the price of stuff that's coming into the United States and make it more expensive. So now yesterday he said, well, I'm not going to implement the tariffs as yet. We're going to try to do something else. When they were telling him during the campaign and telling his supporters, tariffs will not work, all of the economists were saying that will not work. And that will only serve to make the cost of living in the United States worse. They wasn't listening. Donald said that will help. Okay, we voting for that. And now he has come, well, I'm not going to do that here. You know what we're going to do? Drill, baby, drill. More oil and more gas. And we'll make more money. And that will bring down the cost of living. How so? The Republican Party is the party that is most against the government intervening and helping people. Right? Every time the Democrats sought to do something to help the American citizens directly, as was the case with debt forgiveness for student loans, and again going through threads, and I'm seeing so many Americans saying, "Thank you, Joe Biden. My student loans were written off today. 110,000 in debt, 200 and something thousand in debt. All of these things." Some 40 million Americans who would have benefited from that. And the Republicans were saying, why it is our hard-earned tax-paying dollars has to be used to benefit these freeloaders. That's what they call them, freeloaders and bums. They don't support that. They don't support universal healthcare, which is what we have here. That if you bunks your toe, you could go in here, you could call an ambulance because you bunks your toe and you find, oh gosh, you're in too much pain to walk. And they carry you to the hospital free of charge. And then you get to the hospital and they attend to you. Right? Whatever is your ailment, you get treatment. If you're required to be warded, you stay in the hospital for how many ever days or however long, at no cost to you. And then when you leave, they hand you a prescription until you go down to the dispensary and get your medication at no cost to you. And don't come and tell me you're paying tax, because some of you are paying no income tax. Thanks to Keith Rowley, you're no longer paying income tax. Some of you are saving as much as $7,500 US per year because of that increase in your personal allowance. While under Kamala Persad, that $7,500 would have gone to the Board of Inland Revenue. Right? It would have gone to the Board of Inland Revenue, but Keith Rowley tell you take it. So that equates to a $7,500 pay raise for you for the year, whether you're public sector or private sector. You're saving more money on taxes. You have less money coming out from your pay every month to go to the Board of Inland Revenue, so you're taking home more money. But you know what? You all try to counter that to say, yeah, but how it helping? And the price that is going up and the price that are going up. Yeah, well, the reduction in VAT from 15% to 12.5% has helped you. You know why? Because you're paying less VAT on your tea and tech bill, which did not go up. Despite, just remember that, despite the fact the lies that coming from the opposition telling you about, oh, they increased the price of water and they increased, that did not happen. More than a year later, in fact, almost 2 years later, because I think March or April of this year would make it some 2 years since the RIC did their consultation with respect to the request from TNTech to increase rates. 2 years and it has not been implemented. But while you're still lying and talking about where the price of electricity went up, we always get from lying. That's food. That reduction in VAT to 12.5% equates to so much. All the utility bills that you're paying, when you go to buy school clothes for your children, when you go to buy books, you're paying 2.5% less in VAT. Did Kamala think about that? He already took off VAT completely on laptops, tablets, desktop computers, cell phones, all of these different things. Did Kamala Prasad bisa do that? No, she didn't. But you wouldn't get but talking about what Rowley do and what Rowley do, because you all refuse to do your own research and only buying into propaganda and foolishness. It was Keith Rowley that went abroad and negotiated with the energy companies to get back money that your political leader Prasad Visesa took away from the citizens of this country by giving sweetheart concessions to the energy companies. Billions of dollars came back into this country when Dr. Rowley went and gave them his speech and let them know he's speaking for his shareholders, who are the citizens of this country. Had he not done that, the billions of dollars that we got back, we would not have gotten back. And our precious resources that they have extracted from the ground and that has been sold, it don't come back. It's not that when they take it out, it just immediately grows back. It don't happen so. It doesn't replenish. It's gone forever. That is why oil and gas production is where it is today, because Trinidad and Tobago is a mature province. All the oil that we would have been taking out over the past how many years, 100 years or whatever, it doesn't grow back. It doesn't replenish when you take it out. Okay? And unfortunately for us, when I hear people talking nonsense about we should have been like Dubai and we should have been like Qatar and all of this foolishness, we never had Dubai oil production. We never had Qatar oil production. All right? Right now, Ghana is producing about 600 and something thousand barrels of oil per day. Trinidad and Tobago has never produced 600 and something thousand barrels of oil per day. So how the hell could we have been like them? Because we didn't get the kind of money they got. And these countries, when they came into oil production and gas production, is when the prices were high. When we were at our heyday in the production of oil and gas, well, more so oil, prices wasn't $100 and all kind of thing. We were looking at prices at $9 and $6 back in the days of Eric Williams. And even then, when it is that we get a little something under Mr. Manning, and he decided to use that money to develop the country to bring us to a first-world status, your same UNC supporters had an issue with it. When he will the waterfront, or let's say it's vanity project. When it is that he built government campus, or let's say it's vanity project. When he wanted to build the rapid rail, or they complaining with the PNM shut down the train and the PNM closed down the train. Well, he wanted to bring back a better train system and only fight down that. Talking about vanity project and how much money they spend on feasibility study. These things cost money. But you will look at what is happening in Qatar and look at the same developments taking place in Dubai and in China and Singapore and talk about look at what they have there. And Singapore was just like Trinidad. You know what Singapore had? Singapore had a prime minister who was a benevolent despot, because he realized if he were to listen to the utterances of the opposition and their supporters, he would get nothing done. And so he plowed through. And when it is that the opposition want to press on him, what he did? Lock up their backside. Without any charge or whatever, they lock them up. To hell with all you. He saw how he needed to develop Singapore for it to become the country that it is today, and he plowed through regardless of what the opposition said. But in Trinidad, unfortunately, when it is that the Manning administration, when the PNM tries to do things to develop the country, because I always say, the PNM has always been a macro party, focusing on things to benefit the entire country, not to benefit a small clique of persons or to benefit individuals. And that is where they take licks. That's where they take licks, because people don't want to see the bigger picture and what could come out from the bigger picture. So today we don't have a rapid rail, and we have people complaining about the bus system, the transit system that we have, because it's not efficient, it's not this and it's not that. Don't complain, all they didn't want the rapid rail. And those who support the PNM didn't stand up to defend it as they should have. And perhaps, because if you all had done so with your vote, with your finger in 2010, perhaps today we might have had the rapid rail in place. But we don't. Okay? We don't. I just thought I'd make mention of that. So, the misleader of the opposition strikes again. Yet again. And her supporters will continue to support her foolishness. Never mind the fact that plenty of them don't like Donald Trump. But because the goddess, the Maharani, the queen, say something, they had to go with that. But like to call the PNM a cult. Really? Well, within recent weeks, we've seen many people in the PNM challenge the leader of the party. Show that they don't agree with everything that he says or everything that he does. That exists in UNC, right? Unless you're a dissident. And when it is that you're humble, you fall in line. So the same people who was calling for her to go now saying, well, we don't necessarily agree that the leader needs to step down. But Julian John wants to talk about Ben over. Well, they're not serious. But anyway, Kamala says previous US administration a disaster. Hours after United States President Donald Trump's inauguration at the Capitol in Washington yesterday, opposition leader Kamala Persad-Bissessar wasted no time in condemning the previous Democratic administration under Joe Biden, calling it a disaster for the American people and the world. Oh God, trolls, stop trying to distract me this morning. Stop trying to distract me. Okay? As Truth Speaker says, the price of insulin went down. Yes, I have seen many videos, Truth Speaker, on YouTube with American citizens who have died because they couldn't afford, who with diabetes, couldn't afford insulin. And you know what they were doing? They were rationing the insulin, which resulted in them ending up in diabetic comas. So if they're supposed to take, I don't know, let's say 10 cc's in the morning and 10 cc's in the afternoon, in order to make this one vial that they could afford for the month last, they would take 5 cc's in the morning and 5 in the evening. Tell themselves, well, at least I take some, so hopefully that should be able to hold me. Because I don't have any more money to buy the insulin for the rest of the month. So I need to make this one vial of insulin last me for the whole month, when it really supposed to last for 2 weeks. And in doing so, they didn't realize the trauma they were doing to their bodies and ended up in diabetic comas, and some of them have died. Just go and pull up YouTube and you could put in American citizen dies from rationing insulin. And you will see the number of videos come up, the parents and the family members of these persons talking about the trials that they went through because insulin was so expensive. I know about it. My sister was diabetic, right? And all of these different, having to take insulin and all these shots and so on. And it was plenty cheaper in Trinidad than it is over there. I could tell you that. But Joe Biden and his administration tried. But I comment to that now with Persad-Bissessar here, right? So, yeah, I feel I might need to start blocking people. And I seen one by the name of Jason Brown here talking about stop fooling the people. You know what I find laughable about these people? Stop fooling the people. Okay, how are fooling the people? I keep challenging you all. Anything that I say, if it is fooling, if it is wrong, then please correct me. Come here, instead of making these ridiculous statements about stop fooling the people, come and say the right thing. Come and challenge me and say what I say is wrong. You cannot refute the fact that Keith Rowley increased personal allowance 3 times, but Persad-Bissessar didn't. She didn't touch it. All who talking about the state of the healthcare in Trinidad and Tobago. You know what? Most of you all who talking that rubbish have not been to the hospitals. You have not been to the new hospital, but you're running on propaganda that you hear the UNC pushing. Oh, the state of the health sector in this country is the worst. And when you go to the hospital, you have to sit down and wait how much hours before you get attended to. You know why that is? Because there's too many people in the hospital. Too many citizens in the hospital. What are they doing there? Why? Because they don't want to take care of themselves. They're not managing their lifestyle. So you're a smoker, you're drinking, you know you're predisposed to diabetes, but you want to be drinking 2 and 3 Coca-Cola for a day. You're eating a set of fast food, you're not exercising, right? And then you end up sick and in the hospital. Instead of you all come and promote and try to get people to live healthier lifestyles, But the health sector, they need to buy more beds. You all understand how stupid that is? That let us buy more beds to accommodate more sick people. Rather than we promote and say, well, here what? Put exercise machines in the various recreation grounds around the country so that people could go and exercise. You know, because I see we have a few of those. And the regional corporations need to ensure that the grounds are maintained so people could use these exercise facilities, those who can't afford a gym membership. This is what you all should be talking about. Instead of you need to buy more bed for the hospital and buy more bed for the hospital. That making sense? To buy more beds? If a hospital was built to accommodate 500 beds, you're buying more beds to put them where? The hospital was built to accommodate 500. You can't put 800 beds in a 500-bed hospital. Where are you going to put the next 300 in the car park under tents? Do you all think? When you come with these dotish comments, this government built the Arima Hospital, contrary to the lies that UNC spread to say that is Kamala built that. All she did on the 7th of May 2015 was to turn sod. So unless that hospital, as I keep saying, was built for ants, she didn't build any hospital. Because you can't build a hospital in 4 months. Sangre Grande Hospital, Point Fortin Hospital, Roxborough Hospital, and the Central Block in Port of Spain is almost complete. And I know people who right now are in Sangre Grande Hospital, right? A good colleague of mine was in ICU in Sangre Grande, did a hip replacement surgery, and there were some complications and so on, and he ended up there, and he's there now. And we've been getting regular updates from his son. And the first update that we got, the son said he was blown away when he went into that hospital. And he couldn't believe that he was in a hospital in Trinidad and Tobago. Could not believe when he see the state-of-the-art equipment and all of that, the facilities, added to which the care that his father has been getting from the nurses and the doctors and everybody there. He could not believe that he was in a hospital in Trinidad and Tobago. And he says all that he has been hearing about the health sector, the public health sector in Trinidad and Tobago, his mind has now been changed because he has seen for himself. But plenty of y'all who like to jump on social media and talk about the worst healthcare and the worst healthcare. Ask all, when was the last time you went to the hospital? When we could have Cuban boy who do like the best hair on Dr. Rowley head, if he had hair, right? He who has been doing videos criticizing the government and criticizing Dr. Rowley, that he could take his 2 children who were born here, take them to Mount Hope Hospital, right? Which is one of the older hospitals, the legacy hospitals to use Terence Dale Singh too. He took his 2 children there because they had gotten sick or whatever it is, right? And based on the treatment that they got, he came out and did a video to praise the government and praise Dr. Rowley, who he is always criticizing. He made the statement that the toilet in the hospital is cleaner than the bathroom in his own house, in his apartment, right? He said they gave him the prescription to go and get the medication, and he couldn't believe it. He said, let me go down to doing it live one time. Let me go down to the pharmacy and see if we get through. And then afterwards, got through, and he said, look, I get this free. He said in Cuba and in Venezuela, plenty problem. But in Trinidad, no. He gone and what he get? Showing you all the medications that he got. Free of charge. I read a story, an unbelievable story on Facebook a couple of days ago, where an ambulance knocked down a man in the US. Man riding his bike. The ambulance knocked him down. They take him to the hospital and then charge him $1,800 for the ambulance ride. $1,800 for the ambulance ride. Here, as I said before, you could bounce it to and call for an ambulance. But all you complain about the state, the health sector is so bad and whatnot. The simple problem is you have too many people in the hospital. Too many. And if it is that you have doctors and some doctors and nurses who may not be providing the best care, how is that the government's fault? Is Mr. Dale Singh there with a clipboard to be taking notes and observing everybody? To say, all right, well, this one is doing the job properly and that one is doing the job properly? No, but blame the government and all. Figure that if Kamala come back, what that things will change. Miss me with that bullshit. Anyway. Let me look at this. Right. That's not. Let me get this here. I just saw the story. Yeah, no. Okay. Anyway, I have it saved. Kamala celebrates Trump, bashes Biden's destructive woke agenda. Statement from the leader of the opposition. Let us know when when Kamala talking nonsense, right? And when the members of her party, parliamentary caucus and stuff, know when they don't support her. Because when you visit their Facebook pages, those that I haven't been blocked from, none of them shared her congratulatory message to Donald Trump. So that's how you know. Yeah? When they like the control, they share it. But they say, well, I'm not sharing that. Don't get me involved in that. Let she take her licks by herself. And boy, oh boy, has she gotten licks. Boy, oh boy. Every single post that I have read that speaks to this congratulatory letter from Prasad Bisesa, when you go in the comments, is licks left, right, and center. Plenty licks. When all them I come out and say she didn't write that. In fact, I see a man this morning say that she didn't write that. That is the speechwriters in her office wrote that for her. Really? So she don't read what they put out, knowing full well that it would be perceived as her message. I haven't seen anything, any retractions yet. And I will accept none. We will accept none. Well, let me read. I sincerely congratulate President Trump on his historic inauguration. I sincerely, you see that word sincerely? Take your red pen and circle that. That is a big word. I sincerely, from the bottom of my heart, this is not just platitude. This is not me just doing the run-of-the-mill congratulatory message. I sincerely mean what I say, the words going forward, right? Because for the last how many years I've been sitting in front of my television only watching Fox News, sorry. And I am enamored with Donald Trump. Hence the reason you would notice that a lot of my policies, a lot of my what we have in our what is called it by manifesto for 2025, a lot of it mimics what Donald Trump's policies are. You would notice that. For instance, the decision to cut corporation tax in half, right? Reduce the tax rate that the rich are paying. So instead of the 30% that the wicked and evil Keith Rowley has imposed on the wealthy people in this country and the business owners, taking 30% of the profits if they make over $1 million, put me in office and I will reduce that to 18 and below. So they could keep at least 12. And for the banks that are ripping off the average citizen with a set of bank fees, if your loan 1 day late, they want to charge you a late fee. If it is that the month come and they have to, the due date for them to pull their service fee, and you don't have the sufficient amount of money in your account for them to pull, they will pull what you have, put your account into overdraft, and then charge you $34.50 because your account was overdrawn because you didn't have enough money in your account at the time for them to pull their service fee. And so when any money comes into your account now, they will deduct what you're owing, the balance of the service fee that you didn't have in your account to cover, plus the $34.50 that they charge you because they put your account into overdraft, right? On all the billions and profits that the banks have been making doing things like that, I am going to reduce their tax rate to 18% so they could keep 17% more than what they keep now under Rowley. So that's the extra 17% that comes to the coffers of the state in the form of corporation tax. The banks can keep it and they could give it in bonuses to their executives, or they could choose to give it to their shareholders in the form of dividends. And who are the majority of people who own these bank shares is who? Is the poor man who live in the 2x4 on state land that you want to give them land for the landless. They are the ones who own Republic Bank shares and Scotiabank shares and FCB shares. Are they the ones who will be benefiting from these dividends? The poor man who works in CPEP, yeah, he is going to benefit from these dividends, right? Oh yes, it's not the rich. No, the rich don't own shares in the bank. No. So that when it is that Ansa McCall, the conglomerate Ansa McCall declaring $700 million plus in profits for the year, right? 700 plus million is after tax. So when they cross $1 billion, and Prasad Bisesa says, no property tax, so don't worry. All the plants and machinery that you own, you're good to go, man. No property tax, zero. You own Grand Bazaar, and all the millions you're collecting in rent every month, don't worry yourself, zero property tax. And I'm going to cut the tax rate in half that I charge you earlier, that the government is charging you all for all those millions you're getting in just rental income there. So Eastgates, Mr. Aboud, and Gulf City Mall, Mr. Aboud, and whoever own C3, and whoever own South Park, all these malls, Pennywise Plaza on Nassau Ramaya Road when you're going down Chagonas, and M6 Plaza, the newest kid on the block, and Price Plaza, owned by Mr. Aboud, who owns the bricks and so on. Yes, all of these plazas there, Extra Foods Plaza and so on. All over the place where they open a new grocery and they're making ton of money. Come and say, hey, what? Rowley charging only 30%, but I got charge you 18. 18. But you know, for people like Jason Brown, less is more. So 18% is more than 30. And Jason? But Rowley want to make the rich richer. Yes, it's Rowley who want to make the rich richer. But you know what she ain't touching? Income tax. Just like as I said earlier, she didn't increase all your personal allowance so you pay less taxes, less income tax. She didn't do that. And she's not talking about reducing the income tax rate from 25% to 18%. No, no talk about that. Corporation tax, we got cut that because Donald Trump said that is strategy. Cut corporate taxes for the rich so that Jeff Bezos could pay less in tax for Amazon, which making billions of dollars. And Mark Zuckerberg for Meta, right? Pay less. And yesterday at the inauguration, who were the people sitting up front and center? While all of his supporters who contributed to him becoming president were out in the cold, if you see them, who come with a chair, hoping. Now they put up a big screen for them to see, out in the cold. While it is the billionaires and the tech billionaires and so on, the head of Google and the head of Meta, Amazon, what's the other companies, boy? All of these other big companies, all of them were sit down in front. All of them contributed $1 million each to his inauguration. You sell tickets to the supporters, no refund, right? But they're still supporting that. So we see now where she's getting her policies from. Clearly, she looks at Fox News. But all you so want to jam Kid Rowley and Rowley want to make the rich richer. Rowley want to make the rich richer. But when you examine, when you take off your political blinders, take off your political hat, take off your political spectacles and put on your citizen hat and your citizen brain and examine Kamala's policies versus Rowley's policies and see who really want to make the rich richer. But you know what? People like Jason Brown don't like to hear and telling about stuff fooling the people because he considers the truth to be fooling the people. That's what he considers. So I passed in on Chagrit Road yesterday and I see that they just come to throw me off. And I'm looking at this new building that is going up. Stanmore Avenue there, Victoria Avenue, sorry, the corner of Victoria Avenue and Chagrit Road. The new headquarters for the Ministry of Social Development and Family Services. When that building is complete, as I told you all, the ministry will be moving out of the building that they currently in on St. Vincent Street that is owned by Zaman Enterprises, Faris in-laws, and they will be moving into that building, which will be owned by the government. So no more rent. Faris and his family wouldn't be collecting any rent for that building, at least not from the government, unless Kamala Persad-Bissessar comes into office and decides, you know what, leave social development where it is, and this new building, since I want to create at least 3 new ministries, we will put one of the new ministries in this new building, right? And we will continue to rent from Faris. But people like Jason Brown, if that happened, wouldn't come on social media and talk about that. And they want to make the rich richer. Well, you know what? Faris and his family will be very happy if that happens. And, of course, very happy. Let me continue with Persad-Bissessar. All right. You see here. That's why I don't like to read comments, but trolls, ease me up now. Give me a few minutes. Let me just deal with this, and then afterwards, I could go ahead. I salute President Trump's resilience, commitment, and fighting spirit. He has survived assassination attempts, political persecution, and years of personal attacks, but he triumphed in the end. Political persecution. What political persecution did he face? You have Joe Biden's Attorney General, Merrick Garland, who should have been a U.S. Supreme Court judge since 2016, was it? 2015, I think there were 2015, 2016, I think it was. When former Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia died, and Barack Obama was still president. In fact, he had a whole year, thereabouts, 11 months left in his term as president, and sought to nominate Merrick Garland to replace Antonin Scalia. You remember that? And the Republican-controlled Senate, led by Mr. Giblets, Mitch McConnell, a man that I don't like, who is no longer there, thank goodness, refused to even entertain Mr. Garland. Refused to have Merrick Garland come to the Senate, to the Capitol, just for the casual side of things. Refused, because they said in an election year, the president ought not to. If a vacancy arises on the Supreme Court in an election year, the president should not be allowed to choose or to put somebody or to name a replacement, and it should be left until after the election for the new administration. That's what he said. And they absolutely refused to entertain. And so Antonin Scalia's seat on the Supreme Court remained vacant for the rest of the term of Barack Obama's term. And then, of course, Donald Trump won, and he was allowed to name Antonin Scalia's replacement, who, if memory serves me correctly, was Neil Gorsuch, right? Who was not without controversy. But these blasted hypocrites, just like in the UNC, in Donald Trump's final year in 2020, mere months, was just about a month and something before the general election. Not 11 months as in the case of Barack Obama. He didn't have a whole year left on his term. He had about 2 or 3 months, because this happened in September, right? Ruth Ginsburg died in September. She tried to hold on, but she couldn't. And he had just about 4 months or so left on his in office. And the same nasty Mitch McConnell, who said that in an election year, if a vacancy arises on the Supreme Court, that you should not, the outgoing president should not be allowed to make the decision, but after the election, the incoming president should make the choice. What did they do? They ram it through and allow him to name Amy Coney Barrett to replace Ruth Ginsburg. Flip-flop. And you have this nastiness, this other one, Lindsey Graham, another one I can't stand. When it is in 2016, when they refused to entertain Barack Obama's nominee, and Lindsey Graham agreed with Mitch McConnell, and you say, if we have another Republican president, and in an election year a vacancy arises, I will not support that president being allowed to name. And he said you could take that to the bank, and he could hold me to that. And he was one of the nastinesses that supported what Mitch McConnell did in 2020. So they denied Barack Obama, but came in 2020 and did the same thing. Worse circumstances. Force it through in the space of about a couple months. But this clown wants to come and talk about political persecution. What political persecution? Donald Trump was found guilty by a jury of his peers, not by political persons, ordinary citizens who were called to serve on the jury, who would have listened to the evidence and would have made a determination based on the evidence, not any political persecution. Right? Some of the people who were selected to be on the jury said they didn't like him. Then there were a few of them that said, yeah, they think he's an interesting individual, and some. So there was a mixed jury. But at the end of the day, it was unanimous. All of them found him guilty. So to listen to this loud talking about political persecution. What political persecution? But you see, that's the same thing they like to say. Since the Piarco airport was political persecution, and that was a PNM witch hunt designed to make the UNC look corrupt. I continue. She goes on. The previous administration in the United States has been a disaster for the American people and the world. Let me repeat that. The previous administration in the United States has been a disaster for the American people and the world. Based on what? Fox News? Truth Social? They focused on pushing a woke, extreme left-wing agenda that offended basic common sense. Papa Laps, she waxing poetic by. And morality. You know what she's talking about it? Go again. They focused on pushing a woke, extreme left-wing agenda that offended basic common sense and morality, overturned the norms of civilized public life. She's talking about the LGBTQ movement there, right? You know about that. That's what she's talking about there. When they talk about this woke, extreme left-wing agenda, because a partner of mine, we've been arguing that all how we trying to defend Donald Trump and talking about this woke thing and transgender, and they're allowing transgender males to go into female bathrooms and all this kind of nonsense, and he don't agree with that at all, right? But that's what she's talking about here, this woke agenda that offended basic common sense and morality and overturned the norms of civilized public life, disoriented and mutilated children. Really? When did that mutilation take place, Basad Bisasa? I'm going to show you all how this woman is a blasted hypocrite. And if you all needed any evidence, not that, well, the truth. Now the rest of you all don't need nothing else. You all decided long ago that she's unfit to be political leader for opposition leader, far less to be prime minister. But to me, this letter here is all the evidence that you need that Prasad Bisasa is unfit to be in public office, period. She needs to retire and go home, cock up her foot and relax with her grandchildren and whatnot, and continue to watch Fox News and so on. As much as she wants, and to spend the next 4 years just every time Donald Trump come up, so she could compare him to Gregory, and Gregory could feel a how, because you see the love in her eyes when she see Trump come up, and then she look at him and she's like, oh God. Anyway, to show you how she's a blasted hypocrite, you're talking about, oh, they were pushing a woke agenda, extreme left-wing agenda that offended basic common sense and morality, right? This is the same woman who put a transgender hairstylist from San Fernando to serve in the Senate as a temporary senator. Right? You all remember that? That wasn't offensive to the basic common sense and morality. Because I know there were a lot of citizens in Trinidad and Tobago who were upset when she did that. But to show that she didn't care, she did it more than once. Let us not forget that. You're a hypocrite. So when you want to come and talk about woke agenda and that offended basic common sense and morality, we see you. We know what you're talking about. But you did that very same thing and put that individual. I have no issue if that is their choice, no problem. But you, Kamala Prasad Bisasa, took a transgender hairstylist, a man in a dress, to come in the Senate and to speak on behalf of the UNC. You didn't find that offensive? You have at least 2 persons sitting on the opposition bench who you endorse, who have question marks over their sexuality. You don't find that offensive? You have a counselor somewhere down south where there is pictorial evidence, right? To show, videos to show, WhatsApp messages, screenshot WhatsApp messages to show that he was trying to groom a 15-year-old boy to engage in sexual immorality, sending the boy videos and pictures of himself naked and all of that, and telling him the things that he wants to do to him and how and all of these things. It was on social media. You're fully well aware of it. And what did you do? What did you do? You allowed this person to come back and serve another term as a counselor. He would have been screened and you gave him the nod and let him come back. This person who is a clear and present danger to young children, who has shown that he has the propensity to chase little boys. He likes schoolboys. He ain't going to look for big men his age, you know. You're looking here, he have a thing for 15-year-olds and 14-year-olds, yeah, because he could groom them and get them to do, whatever whatever his little fetishes are. This is in the public domain. We know because the Facebook page that it was published on, all of the information, the screenshots that the boy's mother sent to the admin of this page, it was there. We know you all frequent that page. You are aware of what is on that page because you've made mention of things that have been published on that page before. Several persons from the UNC. So you're well aware of the nastiness that that individual did. This is not speculation and hearsay. The evidence was provided, but yet still, what did you do? You give him another term. You give him another term. This time 4 years to serve as a counselor. But want to come and talk about woke agenda? Something very wrong with you, Pastor Bisesa. You're sick. Anyway, I continue. But of course, your supporters wouldn't see it that way. Wouldn't see it that way at all. She goes on to say, that's right. So they focused on pushing a woke extreme left-wing agenda that offended basic common sense and morality, overturned the norms of civilized public life, disoriented and mutilated children, censored and canceled dissenting views, disparaged religious and conservative values, fueled wars around the world, weaponized the judicial system against political opponents, and increased nepotism, corruption, crime, poverty, homelessness, and wealth inequality. So it seems she just got a whole script from Fox News. A whole script. Let's say put that inside. A whole paragraph you dedicate. In fact, that is the longest paragraph in the whole letter. You spent more time, the whole letter, you know. Longest paragraph, lashing the Biden administration. So why you didn't come out over the last 4 years and speak about these things? Why didn't you do that? Pasad Bisesa. You wait until the man last day in office to bad talk him. Is it that you're still toting from the buff you get when you were prime minister and he came here in his capacity as vice president of the United States? And put a good buffing on you? And you're vexed about that and you're still toting? Is that it? So you thought you would take a job? But you see, when you're dotish, because I am certain, if we read the congratulatory messages from other opposition leaders and other leaders around the world, save and except for those countries that are hell-bent against the United States, none of them have that in it. That was totally unnecessary. And we know she has the capacity to write a congratulatory message without maligning the previous administration. That we know. How we know that? Well, it is not the first time that she has issued such a congratulatory message. You'll recall, in fact, when the same Joe Biden, who she just maligned, came into office on January 20th, 2021, she was quick to dispatch congratulatory message to him. You remember that? The first one she dispatched was stolen from the man who was then the opposition leader of the United Kingdom, who is now the Prime Minister of the UK, Keir Starmer. Let me remind you all. Where is it? Let me get it here. Congratulations to Joe Biden on his election as President of the United States of America. He ran a campaign on decency, integrity, compassion, and strength. Far cry from what she posted yesterday, right? I also want to congratulate Kamala Harris on being elected Vice President, the first woman and person of color to take that role. Their victory is one for hope and unity over dishonesty and division. Let me repeat that. Their victory is one for hope and unity over dishonesty and division. Who was promoting dishonesty and division? The same Donald Trump, who you're now sincerely congratulating, who you want to now lift up, right? The same Donald Trump. Millions of Americans of all backgrounds and ages came together to vote for a better, more optimistic future. This is also an important moment for the world. It is a chance to reassert America's place as a force for good on the world stage. A nation that will work with TNT and other allies to defeat this pandemic. I am looking forward to TNT forging an even stronger relationship between Trinidad and Tobago and the USA. The post appeared several hours after Starmer's posting, which read, Congratulations to Joe Biden on his election as president of the United States. So they couldn't even address that. The same, he ran a campaign on values that we in the United Kingdom share: decency, integrity, compassion, and strength. And I want to congratulate Kamala Harris on being elected vice president, the first woman of color to take that role. Word for word, you know? Word for word. This victory is one for hope and unity over dishonesty and division. Word for word. Shameless. Shameless plagiarism. Right? You change it up. You just, where it had United Kingdom, you just replace it with TNT. Right? But shameless. But in that message, you did not seek to attack. Let me see if I get the second one. Right. And then what happened? She came and said, when it was discovered that she plagiarized, she came and said, well, I know it was the admin for the page that did that, wrote that. She had nothing to do with that. So you don't read stuff before they put it out. You don't read it. You just, right. She then did it over when her folly was uncovered, her dishonesty. I wish to extend congratulations to President Joseph R. Biden on becoming the 46th President of the United States. I also wish to extend a special congratulations to Vice President Kamala Devi Harris on becoming the first woman of color to hold the office of Vice President of the U.S. Trinidad and Tobago has always had a special relationship with the United States. We both share the same principles of democracy and liberty. This is a victory for democracy, and indeed, it marks the dawn of a new era for the American people. I look forward to this continuing relationship and friendship under President Biden and hope that his administration will work with the Caribbean to address issues such as regional security, climate change, and economic development. You're hoping that he works with the Caribbean to address issues of climate change, but yet still you are endorsing and congratulating and lifting up a man who believes climate change is a hoax. So much so that yesterday he signed an executive order to pull the United States out of the Paris Climate Accord, an agreement which sought to, in the main, get the biggest, largest countries around the world who have the largest, what is called carbon footprint, who contribute the most to global warming, to get them to engage in certain policies that would reduce their carbon footprint and thereby slow the rate of global warming, right? But yet still, he said, we know about our life. Drill, baby, drill. Oh, drill, baby, drill. That is his policy. Let us increase our carbon footprint, not reduce it. Look at what is happening in California with all of these fires, right? And then my partner who wants to come and tell me about man-made fires. Is somebody start the fire? I say, okay, I don't agree with you, but if that is your position, no problem. I said, well, there's also the fact that California hasn't seen rain for 8 months. That's man-made too. Explain that one to me now. That's man-made. That they have been facing drought conditions for the past 8 months and some. Man-made. Which is why the conditions were able to fuel the fires, because the place has been so dry. Can't answer me on that one. Hypocrisy at its best. She goes on. Let me get it here. Now see her boy, Kevin Ramnarine, only too happy to post up anything that talks about Venezuela. I carefully noted President Trump's inaugural speech. The list of executive orders he announced was faithful to his campaign promises, which was the basis of his comprehensive electoral victory. I anticipate significant and dramatic changes in international cooperation, diplomacy, foreign affairs, and bilateral relations. I look forward to the return of meritocracy, excellence, and intelligence as a standard criterion for accessing equal opportunities. She's not supporting DEI. The people of Trinidad and Tobago and the United States of America have profound, essential connections at many levels, and our futures are inevitably intertwined. President Trump is the leader America needs right now, and I wish him and his government God's richest blessings and guidance in all their actions for the greater good of America and the rest of the world. I wish President Trump and the American people every success in the next 4 years. Only 4? You should wish him success for 8. Yeah, because I mean, based on the Constitution, he could only serve 4. But if it is, he's saying, well, he could amend the Constitution by executive order to do away with birthright citizenship. Well, you can amend the constitution by executive order to say he should be able to run a second consecutive term since he didn't get a chance to do it the first time. And don't put it past him because he has already hinted at that when he was first elected and he was speaking. He visited the capital to address the members of Congress, and he said, "Well, could only serve one term unless it is you guys think I do such a great job and find a way for me to stay longer." And they laugh. But as one Republican lawmaker said, if Donald Trump says jump high or jump 3 feet in the air, we jump 3 feet in the air. Right? And if that is what he wants, they'll find a way to make it happen. But she wants to talk about who's dictator. Let me go again. Come back here where she talks about the fuel wars around the world. Which wars did they fuel? Last I checked, Vladimir Putin was no friend of Joe Biden. In fact, Joe Biden on numerous occasions over the last 4 years has repudiated and excoriated Vladimir Putin, referring to him as a dictator, right? And Kamala Harris has done the same. Donald Trump, on the other hand, has not done so. In fact, he admires Vladimir Putin, right? As his good friend, his good buddy. As we know, Putin is very happy that it is Mr. Trump who was inaugurated yesterday and not Kamala Harris. So while people were saying, well, we do, she's a woman and she's weak and she wouldn't be able to stand up to people like Putin. Is Trump going to do that? Is he going to do that? No, that's his buddy. We know that. So they pull a stunt with respect to, and now he's trying to take credit for the ceasefire between Israel and Palestine, where some of the remaining hostages were released yesterday, day before, and so on. And they say, well, it's because Trump called Netanyahu and tell him, hey, I want this war, this must be dealt with by the time I get into office, this war must have ended and whatnot and so on. He said he would end the Ukraine-Russia war in one day. It's still ongoing. And I feel sorry for Ukraine because whereas they would have found a friend in Joe Biden and his administration, at least to be able to provide them with weapons to defend themselves, Trump would not be so inclined. All right? And so now Ukraine is on edge. Putin refuses to allow Ukraine to join NATO. He says that's a non-starter. And if they want any discussions for any ceasefire, Ukraine cannot join NATO. So what are they to do now? They're left like sitting ducks. Sitting ducks waiting to see what Donald Trump is going to do. Is he going to prefer Zelensky over Putin? I don't think so. I don't think so. So we'll see what happens, whether or not Ukraine will be fully overrun and then Mr. Putin can move on to Poland next, and who knows where else he has his sights set on. Yeah? So let's see if it is the next 4 years we'll see Europe plunged into turmoil. Weaponize the judicial system against political opponents. So now she's casting aspersions on the US judicial system, implying that the judges, clearly the jury and everybody else at the Justice Department and all that they allow themselves to be used as pawns by the Biden administration to, as she says here, to go after the political opponents. Yet still it was Donald Trump who declared his political opponents to be the enemies within, and that should he become president, he intends to go after them using the same Justice Department. So much so that former President Biden had no choice but to pardon persons who simply did their jobs, persons who sat on the January 6th committee and so on and did the investigation and would have unearthed the evidence that they needed to see hundreds of persons arrested and charged. In fact, we had the leader of the Proud Boys. Remember when Trump in his debate with Biden said to the Proud Boys, stand by and something so? Or something so, right? The leader of the Proud Boys was convicted and given a 22-year sentence, 22 years in jail. He's been there for a few months, and yesterday, Mr. Trump signed an executive order giving him a full pardon, so he will be out of jail in a few days for the role that he played on January 6th when they stormed the Capitol in the US. But that is what she supported. That is what she is supporting. Right? She supports that this individual and others like him who would have stormed the Capitol who would have been instrumental in this insurrection, and who the courts of the United States of America, right, the judicial system that they love to say works better than ours, sentenced him to 22 years in jail, and the president who came in, no, wasted no time. That was one of his first actions on day one. He didn't wait a month or 2 weeks. Day one. So even before he was sworn in, they already prepared this executive order to exonerate all of these people and tell them, okay, go home, like yourself, man. You all are forgiven for what you did. You set a perfect example. She goes on to talk about the increased nepotism. Really? But so they increased nepotism, but correct me if I'm wrong. And Donald Trump's daughter-in-law is the soon-to-be ambassador to Greece. Am I wrong? What you call that? The father, Donald Trump's, the father of Donald Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, is going to be appointed the ambassador to France. What you call that? I'm confused. That's not nepotism, Kamala. From the president himself. The president himself is appointing family members to significant roles in his administration, government. Joe Biden did that? I know, Kamala. Joe Biden did that? But you want to come and talk about promoting nepotism, corruption, crime, poverty, homelessness, and wealth inequality. Wealth inequality. The crime rate in the United States has fallen under Joe Biden, right? She wants to talk about corruption. Joe Biden's son was charged, tried, and convicted, right? And he was prepared to accept whatever judgment the court made, whatever sentence was passed on him. But when it is, Joe Biden realized how the Republicans were going after his family and so on, and the example set by Trump, he said, you know, to hell with that, I'm going to pardon my son. Pardon my son because the attack on him has been unfair. But you want to talk about corruption? Pasabi says, so you forgot Trump's first term, almost every single member of the man's cabinet was charged. Almost every member of his cabinet and several people in his administration were charged. Some of them convicted. You serious? I want to talk about corruption? But again, her idea of corruption is skewed because there are a lot of wrongdoing taken. When it is that she could continue to have a man who is on $1 million bail sitting as this country's chief whip, tells you where her mind is at and what her definition of corruption is. Wealth inequality. Really? Who were the people who were sitting in the front yesterday for the inauguration? It wasn't the simpletons and them who spend their money, the last few pennies, who complaining for the last how long about the price of gas and the price of eggs and the cost of living and the price of milk, but who were able to scrape together some monies to be able to come up to Washington for 2 or 3 days to stay in a hotel so that they could go and sit down on the National Mall for a couple hours and look at Donald Trump's inauguration and listen to his speech and then stand up on the sidelines to watch him drive down the National Mall and wave as he come out. Well, he wasn't able to do that yesterday, I don't think. Wealth inequality? You serious? Really? The tax cuts that he's proposing is for who? The ordinary citizen? Just like the tax cuts that you're proposing? So when you want to talk nonsense about wealth inequality, what foolishness is that? You have not seen the people that Donald Trump has surrounded himself with? The man has shown himself to be a huckster, selling everything from shoes to meme coins to trading cards, watches, Bibles. The president of the United States. The last time he was president, he overcharged, there's a report that he overcharged the Secret Service for staying in his hotel in Washington, D.C. Because, they had to protect him and so on and so. There's so many hotels in Washington, D.C. Why did they have to stay at his hotel? Why his hotel? And then overcharged the the Secret Service? But she ain't gonna talk about that. That's not corruption. That's not graft. That's not greed. No. The list of executive orders he announced was faithful to his campaign promises, which is the basis of his comprehensive electoral victory. She anticipates significant and dramatic changes in international cooperation. Common decency will tell you, so we know. You could send a congratulatory message without maligning the previous administration. You could do that. You could have sung Trump's praises and showered him with platitudes. You could have written a 10-page congratulatory message, right? Kissing his K-Pax without maligning the previous administration. And when one sees the points that you raised to malign the previous administration and it's rooted in rubbish, garbage, nonsense, lies, and misinformation, as is the norm for the political leader of the UNC, seeming to forget that while Joe Biden and Kamala Harris may be out of office, there are many others who supported that administration who are still in office and who will be in office for quite some time to come. Such persons who supported Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. Such persons who have aspirations to themselves occupy the White House probably in the next 4 years. And I'm sure Kamala Harris probably might decide to make a second run at it, because in the first instance, she didn't get a chance to run a full campaign. So she might give it another chance, and there are a lot of people who are pledging their support for her and calling for her to run in 2028. So let us say that she decides to run in 2028 and is successful this time. And you win the election this year, which means you will still be prime minister at that time. What are you going to do with your hypocritical self? Send her a congratulatory message, congratulating her and telling her thing, and you know, right, on becoming the first female president of the United States and all of that. I hope if that happens, that somebody will keep a copy of this message and put it on her desk, so day one she could remember you and what you said. Your hypocrisy and the idiocy of this message. You don't do things like that. All right? And while you may want to assert that the previous administration was a disaster to the American people and the world and all of the things that you accused them of, and that they were a disaster to the American people, 75 million American citizens who have more right to comment on the previous administration than you do, 75 million of them would probably tell you to haul. You're talking rubbish. The 75 million of them who cast the ballot for Joe Biden, well, not Joe Biden, for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, disagree with you. 10,000 Frenchmen can't be wrong. Far more for 75 million. So if 75 million of them say to tell you to rock so with that rubbish, you are not more emboldened to speak than they are, because they are American citizens and they lived in the US over the last 4 years. And they could do the comparative because they were there the previous 4 years under Trump, and they could do the comparison between the two. So, right. Yeah. So I was making the point that if you all don't want to talk about the opposition leader, that is fine. Okay? That's on you. But if you come here, be prepared to hear about her and the alternative, or the government in waiting as they refer to themselves. So don't talk about them. Let me talk about the issues. Let's talk about the issues. Let's talk about the fact that so far for the year, the murder rate is less than what it was last year. Talk about that. You want to talk about that? Let's talk about the fact that finally, the police service has started to do what they used to do between 2010 to 2015, which is to give you regular updates on statistics about crime as a whole, and not only be hearing about the murders. So we would have heard ACP or DCP Benjamin, who would have given us a rundown of the crime statistics year to date, where we would have seen that for the same period last year, there were 296 serious crimes reported. As up to yesterday, they've only had there were 295 serious crimes, including murder and robbery and rape and all of these burglaries and home invasions and stuff. Same period last year, up to the 20th of January, the police had 295 reports. Year to date, they have 96. 96 reports. A reduction of, right? Earlier. You want to talk about that, Jason? You want to talk about that? The murder rate is down. So when I see Saddam Hussein and Mr. Superman jockey shorts come on Sunday morning to do the waste of time press conference to talk about the state of emergency are working because we still have murders. Who said that the state of emergency would eradicate murders altogether? But they don't consider reduction in the number of murders yet today to be a success. You don't? So we're about what, 19, 18 or 19 murders? As opposed to the same period last year where we were almost approaching 40 murders. And they don't consider that. They want statistics and the data will show. What does the data show? The data shows that for the last 20-something days, 22 or 23 days, that crime is down. When you look at the statistics with respect to the number of guns and ammunition, the amount of ammunition that the police have recovered, it is increased. They have recovered more guns in the last 20 days than they did for the same 20-day period in 2024. That is not a success. That's the issues you want us to talk about. What other issues you want us to talk about? Jason. What other issues? Tell me now. What you want to talk about? The economy? Well, I saw an article where the head of the San Fernando Chamber of Commerce was making the point that notwithstanding that you've had two companies, two businesses, a couple of businesses would have shut down recently in San Fernando. One of which is, what's the name of this business? Oh gosh, it's a popular bar. Toppers. That there have been more businesses opening in San Fernando than businesses shutting down. And we're seeing that throughout the country. Take a drive if you're not from the East-West corridor. Massive warehouse, almost complete in Orange Grove there, opposite Blue Waters. Go and see. Massive warehouse. I think they said that's supposed to be massive warehouse. In a suffering economy, in an economy that is on the brink. Really? Come on now, man. All are not serious. All are not serious. Strip malls opening all over the place. Eastgate Mall is almost fully tenanted. They're putting in the bowling alley, and so they put out an ad for it. Looking real nice. Very soon, all these things coming. Boy. I'll tell you that's why I don't like to read. I don't like to read these things. Bandman is asking whatever happened to the ILP. I don't know. Why don't write the Sunshine newspaper and ask Shakona? You're asking me? I haven't been a part of the ILP in years. Quite some time. So I can't answer that question. The best person to answer that question is Jacques Warner. I wasn't the political leader. So I can't tell you that. And I'm not at liberty to give you Mr. Warner's cell phone number for you to call him, right? So write a letter to the Sunshine newspaper and ask him. He can tell you. So, let me get this. I always like to come and bring up these nonsense, these foolish things. You feel that doing me something? I've never hidden the fact that I was involved with the ILP for 2 years. That's public knowledge. Duh. Yesterday was yesterday and today is today. And Jack Warner went back to the UNC. Mr. Yates. Morning, sir. Let me just give me 1 second. Let me just get this. All right. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Hello?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Yes. Let us start off with the simple fact that all this rush of information that Kamala Bissett is trotting out here, it doesn't come from her. Kamala doesn't have that depth of information or analysis to talk all these things that you're talking about. Apart from the bile and the nastiness, that kind of tight, intimate world knowledge, Kamala doesn't have that because essentially she's an illiterate. She's an illiterate. If somebody could stand up in the parliament, okay, and talk about Renaissance for Renaissance, Renaissance for Renaissance, and the other one, which fits me now. But she doesn't have that depth and breadth of knowledge to talk about what she's talking about. She has gotten that information from some other source inside her party. I have an idea of who it is. is a Tapia intellectual who's a PRO now. That is where she's getting that information from. On her own, Kamala Bissetta does not have that kind of information. But the main point I want to make is this. I am not surprised at all, as happened 8 years ago, where most, if not all, local Indians and Indians in the States supported Donald Trump for president. You would remember Fuad Khan came right out and said, I supported Trump. And he represented many thousands of Indians in this country and just as many in the United States. Now, notwithstanding the fact that a lot of them, business not fixed, they're running behind Trump. And the reason is simple. It is rooted in racial prejudice. Racial prejudice. They could never, you see, they see the Democrats as Black People Party. They see it as the Black People Party. And you see Kamala Harris, she never had a chance with the support of, say, Indians in Trinidad. She didn't have a chance. Similarly, Indians living in the States. And it is a simple understanding, you know, they could not bring themselves to support a party led by what they regard as a Black woman. That is what it is. They cannot relate it. Now, if she was like a Stuart Young, half Indian, half Chinese, that might have made a little impression. But you see the fact that the woman is a Douglas, or we call her Douglas in Trinidad, they see her, in the States she's a Black woman, and they see her down here as a Black woman. So they could not support her. They could not support her. Explained by the same fact as to why Kamala Bissetta, for reasons as yet unexplained, removed Anita Haynes as the PRO of her party. And she was voted in by the membership of the UNC in the internal election before this last one here. She was voted in. And before you could say Jack Robinson, under cover of darkness, we have to discover that Anita Haynes is no longer the PRO. And I gave that simple explanation. And I said again, it is because this Douglas woman does not represent the face of the sugarcane Caroni Barrapo party. Bottom line, that is what it is. That is what it is. And that is why they could never support Kamala Harris. In fact, don't feel all she talking there about Biden is what is really in her head, you know. She loves Biden, but she hates him for having had this woman as his vice president. That is why she's attacking him now. It is rooted in racial prejudice, and I make no apologies for saying that because I know them. I live here my whole life. That is how they are. And finally, this sudden leaning towards Donald Trump. Do you remember a few years ago when Mondelo was the ambassador, the high commissioner here, Monilal dropped a letter for him to send to Trump, like when Trump was still in power. They complained on Trinidad so that we could face sanctions from the white people, from Trump. That is what it is. That is what it is. You see this sudden hugging up and love affair that Kamala Bissetta has for Trump. It has to do with Venezuela. They want Trump, they want madman Trump to do to Maduro what was done to Noriega in Panama years ago. Kick him out, put a puppet to run Panama, jail him for the rest of his life. That is what they want from Maduro. But there's a deeper thing than that. They want Maduro out of the picture so that it could damage Trinidad's chances with that dragon gas deal. That is what it is all about. And so once again, they're showing their typically well-known and well-documented anti-Trinidad position on everything, unless they are in power. So they are prepared to consort with the white man to damage Trinidad's chances to do a little improvement to our economy. That is the bottom line. Okay, Mr. Romain, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. I agree with you wholeheartedly, but Jason Brown wants us to talk about issues. And here's an issue for us to talk about, Jason. The fact that Kamla Persad-Bissessar and the UNC, as Mr. Yates mentioned, they would be happy for the Dragon deal to be scuttled. You know why? And I kept saying that they were supporting Trump even before the election. I said that. Because if Trump comes into office, I was saying, and he decides to scuttle the Dragon deal, they wouldn't get blamed for it. Right? They wouldn't get blamed. And I made the point that if they were to win the election and Kamala Harris had won the presidency, they would have had a hard time negotiating with Nicolas Maduro because of how she has maligned Maduro in the same way she's now seeking to malign Joe Biden. All the things she accused Maduro of being part of a corrupt cook-up with Rowley and Jindal and all kind of thing. And Jindal want to buy the refinery so that he could refine Venezuelan oil at the risk of sanctions and all that nonsense. And as Stuart Chung would have told us, every time he goes to Caracas to meet with the officials in Venezuela, they always ask him, what is going on with your opposition leader? Why is she attacking President Maduro? So the man is well aware of the nasty things that she's been saying. So now she got an out. If they were to win, she goes, well, don't blame me. You know, it's not because of us that we did Dragon deal and go through. It's Trump policies which you support. You support policies that is going to hamper and hinder an opportunity for your country to be able to earn much needed foreign exchange. That's all you complain about. We can't get foreign exchange, no US, we ain't getting US. And Dragon Gas could give you that US. And you are supporting someone who could scuttle that. Talking about we need to look for in-border gas. You know the time and money and resources it's going to take for in-border gas. You have to look for it. And then you have to get these companies now to decide to make a final investment decision and all of that before. So why isn't this thing connected? What's going on here? So folks, give me 1 sec. Yes, sir. Morning. Hello. Hello.
Hey, morning, sir. Morning.
That's
housekeeping there.
Yeah, man.
But listen, hold on a second. What's that, Jason?
Caribbean Soul is saying misinformation. Kamala never said anything about the Dragon gas. The aim is to do business with Venezuela, but not Maduro at the helm. So, I don't know. Well, let's come up with these things, right? What is the process to remove Nicolas Maduro? You have an issue. So Trump has an issue with Maduro, but he doesn't have an issue with, the hypocrisy of you people. It's amazing, you know.
Yes, sir. Morning. I'm sorry.
Yeah, man. Go ahead.
Apologies. So, listen, you could not get a more naked example of bending the knee and kissing the ring. But in this issue, swallow the ring. It might be hurting she belly all out. You understand? They had to do surgery to remove the ring. But the fact is that we should have gone with nepotism. But the Trump administration would have the secret service detail in the Trump cell in Washington and charge the US government. it is his son-in-law, Krishna, that made 20 million the 4 years that the party was in office. In fact, him and his wife, that's Trump's daughter, Ivanka, they said that they left the White House with $10 million more than they committed. His father was going to be the ambassador. He was pardoned by Trump last time. But the father would have set up his own brother-in-law for his then brother, for his sister, to see evidence of his dalliance against her in the gospel proceedings. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
That post-Trump administration, they closed it up the Crown Prince in Saudi Arabia after the journalist Khashoggi was killed after he went into the Saudi embassy. That never came out. They did not know that. That was not human rights abuse.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And she talking about government. Here she was with Joe Biden. Because remember, through the OFAC license that was allowed under the Biden administration for the Manatee and Dragon deal to go ahead. Right? That was facilitated under Joe Biden. In fact, the Congressional Black Caucus, led at the time by Representative Gregory met with the government, and the government told them, this is the reason why we need this, and so on and so forth. And then they were to go to the floor House of Representatives and get bipartisan permission to listen. If these deals go on, it would mean that there would be less reliance on U.S. supplies to these Caribbean countries, and that's what they want.
Mm-hmm.
Everything about the America First policy and looking inward. This woman is just totally bereft of ideas and idea in the left. But like I said, I'm not surprised that was the action that they took. Well, it's interesting, right? When I signed this deal about birthright citizenship and so on. Listen, that executive order will go nowhere. Because of the fact there was a case in 1898 of a Chinese national, of a Chinese American who went to China, his family after he was born in China, because when they had to work on the railroad and so on. When he returned to the US, was held by the immigration authorities, and they opined that, listen, this man is not a citizen of the US, he's a Chinese national. And it went all the way to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court at that time in 1890 ruled 9-0 that the 14th Amendment protection applied to the gentleman. So he was an American citizen. And this is what went up. And in terms of all the other the executive orders, you're quite correct. They need to be passed. What is amended in the U.S. Constitution? Both houses have to agree to it, and then 2/3 of all the state legislatures. And the Republicans do not control 2/3 of the 50 state legislatures. So there were problems.
Yes.
There will have problems. And people are already standing by with that particular case. Maybe they might know, but it would. But that 1898 case will be the standard bearing case because Vice President. And of course, this current Supreme Court headed by Justice Roberts overturns that. Right? There's only one Supreme Court decision to overturn our next Supreme Court when it comes to precedents of the courts and so on. And the doctrine of ISIS and that kind of thing. Right? Well, listen, I am saying that when you talk about good for the good, right now, President Zelensky is, where's his position in terms of what we're going to Ukraine? But after the current supplies that they would have get until last release, before the last extended budget government shutdown that was voted, right? If they don't give them supplies, Ukraine will be overrun. the Trump administration saying that what the world wants to see? When he talk about he will be the president, is that what she wants to see? That's what we want in the world? Because again, if Ukraine falls and the conflict escalates, what will happen to the supply chains and so on that coming from that part of the world? She's thinking about that? Right? Prices will only go up in Europe and North America, will also affect us here too. Right? And make no mistake, that executive order we talked about the WHO response to the COVID pandemic and thing. That was the person responsible for the COVID response in America. But he said it was beautiful, it was growing, it's a cold, it's a flu. You were telling people to take hydroxychloroquine and shine a light up on you and take bleach and so on. Right? This is what he wants to tell his people to remove them from the WHO. You will see. We will see. Right? And in the outset, they didn't even have ventilators in stock. Right? They had to invoke the particular act that allows them to go and start manufacturing without getting approval and so on, getting money to do that. Until the ventilator crisis was averted, the early days of COVID in the US. But forget that, you know what I mean? Wow. But I just want to say that the world and us as a region is in for a rough 4 years. And as with respect to what you said, a slight correction. The next US midterms will be in 2026. That is when House of Representatives and certain Senate seats will come up for election. And that is the first opportunity people will have in the makeup of the House of Representatives and some seats in the Senate for 2026 before the next general election for presidency, which is due in 2023. And the way how it looks right now, when people are going through the buyer's remorse, if you check 20 YouTubers and so on, people are experiencing the phenomenon called powerful right now. I find out, and they have serious buyer's remorse because they're now realizing, hey, what you're listening about the manufacturing jobs, the people who got manufacturing jobs because of the act that Biden passed, the CHIP Act and so on, it's like I want the respect and things like that, higher employment. They are now realizing, hey, what we do, man, in terms of the construction industry in the US, farm workers, the majority of them are immigrants. Who is going to do that work? Right? Not US citizens and the white suburban children who go into private schools and so on. They're not going to do that kind of work. And if you deport all these people who pick tomatoes in California, Nevada, New Mexico, and so on, what will happen? Things will be rotting in the fields. Right? When you declare the cartels terrorist organization, akin to Al-Qaeda and all these other things, and you say that you give your defense forces, the army, the navy, the marines, all right to go and enforce it by any means necessary. When you actually declare war against Mexico, then people realizing that US is going to be unleashed in this 47 months. For people who didn't watch it, I want people to go and take a look at the salute that Elon Musk gave when he addressed the gathering. And the salute he gave was a full-on Hitler salute. That is what the world going back to. Me and you didn't dream to be alive, but I could remember the tales of my father telling me what would have had the Nazi U-boat menace succeed in this part of the world. And what would have happened? Is that why we championing? I swear. Well, thanks for the intervention as usual, sir.
Yes, sir.
People have a lot to look forward to with repetition and worry. With this administration.
Correct.
That is a key. That the lady who Farage has grown if they succeed to constitute. That is a rabbit hole that I do not wish to go along with her. I'm saying that she has shown that she is not ready for prime time or even to grow and be any meaningful participant in CARICOM going forward. She has totally disqualified herself from that position. Anybody who can realize that, well, I'm praying for them. Have a good day, brother.
Thank you, sir.
Take care.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Dominic. How are you, sir?
I am good, sir.
Good. Very interesting discourse as per usual again, and the responses across the board. This morning, I want to just focus my contribution on you spoke about it, that a bit of income inequality, and what the government has done to move the poor out of poverty. But before I do so, I just want to make a small point with respect to the energy part of it. You know, a lot of callers talking about the dragon gas and the tracker. The point is that the Manatee has already been delinked from the Loran. That's the Manatee gas field, which is in Trinidad waters. Originally, it was the Loran Manatee, and that created a challenge for Dr. Rowley as Prime Minister, and certainly Stuart Young. And they delinked it, and that whole project with the Manatee is in process. Lots of things are happening with that project in terms of measuring the distance, getting the necessary equipment, and so on. But an American firm is there doing it. That Manatee gas field has 2.7 trillion cubic feet of gas. It is going to produce 604 million cubic feet of gas per day. And it is expected that the domestic and export demand for gas will be fulfilled. Let me say that again. With the Manatee, and this is all carried in the router news, not even local news. The Manatee has a capacity of 2.7 trillion cubic feet of gas. It is expected to produce 604 million cubic feet of gas per day, and expected to meet the domestic and export demand for natural gas. And that is a brilliant process. The dragon gas, which is really the geopolitics and the challenges there, and that is something we have to move on. It's expected that the Manatee will come on stream in 2027. I just wanted to put that. But let me go quickly on to the point, because I don't want to stay too long. In terms of that, and I want to commend the government for that, this question of income inequality. And I started in social welfare, I think you spoke about it. But having been involved in the business of social welfare, and for some time, I can tell you that when the UNC left, the ceiling was $4,500 for the senior citizens grant. Under this government, under Dr. Rowley's leadership, the ceiling is now $5,500. And there's an increase of $1,000 for persons getting NIS and senior citizens grant. There's an increase of $1,000. It was $4,500 before, and now it is $5,500, so they're getting an increase. There's the question of the minor disability grant. Before, under the UNC, there was only an adult grant. You had to be over 18. Now, the government has introduced a new section called the minor disability grant, and they are getting $1,500 per month. The public assistance and the food card grants, all of them have been increased. Now I move on to the Home and Village Improvement Program, which is a program that really touched my heart when Dr. Rowley visited Yoruba, and he looked at many of the houses there, people own houses, and they were in a dilapidated position. And that gave the birth of the Home and Village Improvement Program. It is virtually a free program where over 800 families have benefited. They now have concrete structures and proper roof and all of that. And that is a lot for me as an educator, because here you find a situation where you can develop family life. The children have the opportunity to do their own investment and so on and stuff like that. And so on. And that is very important for me in moving the poor out of poverty, because once the children have the opportunity to pursue their education in an adequate and appropriate setting, the development is in good hands. And then I move from there to the HDC. The HDC was under the UNC, it was 45,000 ceiling. And it meant it moved the question of getting the government assisted households from the low income to the high, the wealthy. And this government, in its origin from Dr. Williams, the focus was on low income, and they reduced the ceiling to $25,000. So the people now of low income families have a better opportunity to get housing. And now I want to move on to the question of, you mentioned it, I want to move on to the daily paid. And that is a very important thing for me as well. Under the UNC, it was $15 per hour. This government, with economic challenges, what do you see? They moved it from $15 per hour to $17.50 per hour. And then from $17.50 per hour to $20.50 per hour. And then finally from $20 to $22.50 per hour for public officers. And you did mention the question of the income tax, and I will go there. And finally, I want to go to education. And this is a part that interests me a lot in terms of moving the out of poverty. This government has been involved in a program called remedial education in 106 schools, 80 primary and 26 secondary schools, where they are giving the children the opportunity to improve their academics with support from guidance officers and so on. This is a pilot project which is going to move on to many other schools. Those children who are slow learners and have just challenges with the academics. It's a special program. It's a remedial after-school program and a remedial vacation program. Let me say that again. That is critical to me because I think the education is the gateway to development. Yeah, so you have that, and finally the means test. Now, with respect to those bright students getting bursaries and using taxpayers' money, the government has devised a program called bursaries rather than the national scholarships. And with the bursaries, the difference is you have to pass a means test. Yeah, your family has to be within a certain income. So the bursaries, which we will get 500 bursaries. The Sabdasal can't get that. The rich people can't get that, no matter how bright they are, because you've got to satisfy a means test, meaning that your family must have certain financial needs. But you have got to be bright. You've got to have talent. You've got to have capacity. But what is going to give you the priority is that your family, have a financial need. So I thought I would just bring that into the discourse. And thank you again. And we have to continue this education and uplifting the public to let them understand all the serious work this government has done, even with the challenges we have in economics, in the economy. Thank you very kindly, Don.
Thank you, sir. I just want to answer something here quickly for the one who goes by the name, what it is here by Caribbean Soul. He says, so I think Angie 410 is telling him that a number of large refineries have closed down. And his response is, you ever see why they were closed down? It wasn't anything to do with loss of profits. It's either sanctions or government run the country into bankruptcy. So let me respond to that misinformation, Caribbean Soul. I'm going to school you this morning. Coming from the mouth of one Kevin Ramnarine, the former Minister of Energy under the People's Partnership. December 2014. I've read this before, but I'll read it again for your education because apparently you miss it. You see, when you want to come here with your lies and misinformation, I'll correct you. December 2014, speaking in the Senate. Here's what he said. The fall in the gross refining margin at Petrotrin is a feature of worldwide oversupply refinery capacity, compounded by the shale oil revolution, which has seen American refiners benefit from cheaper crude oil and lower natural gas prices. As a result, U.S. refinery utilization rates in July 2014 peaked at 94%. American refineries are therefore more competitive than their counterparts outside of the United States. Listen to this, Caribbean Soul. These depressed margins have led to the closure of some 60 refineries worldwide over the last 4 years, with a further 11 currently being contemplated for possible closure in other parts of the world. In the Caribbean, 2 refineries have closed in recent years. In Europe, 13 refineries have closed in the last 5 years. He goes on to say, Petrotrin and indeed the country is not immune from this global scenario. Now what he means there? Petrotrin is not immune from shutting down. You see all this information he just gave you about 60 refineries worldwide and 11 currently being contemplated, and 2 in the Caribbean. You see, he mentioned anything there about sanctions or the government or the country went bankrupt? Where do you all get this foolishness, this dotishness to come here? Are you like embarrassment? Clearly. He goes on to say Petrotron is now also facing the specter of falling oil prices, which jeopardizes the profitability of its upstream business. That you come in here to talk about it had nothing to do with profitability. Well, go and tell Kevin Ramnarain that. The man who was Stuart Young's predecessor, go and tell him that. It had nothing to do with profitability, but rather it had to do with sanctions and the country going bankrupt. Something wrong with Tole, yes? Very wrong with Tole. Come here with a set of misinformation. Rock so with that. Jenny.
Hi, morning, Dominic.
Morning.
One to all the callers and listeners. One thing. To me, Kamala Pasabi said Sunday the audition to the white man. They like to tell us about we support him in a security or something wrong with that. But them love everything white. So I just see it as an audition, and again, Kamala Pasabi says is a hypocrite. Because the work and what she's talking about and the values what Donald Trump is exposing and all that, she made history in this country by putting in our parliament the first openly transgender man or woman as a temporary senator. So I don't understand how she could be complaining or want to align herself with whatever values that Trump with. Only two genders it have. It don't make sense. And then when you look in our parliament or our members, some of them are questionable in the sex life. It has been put out there. So again, I don't take these things with this woman seriously. As I say again, it's an audition for Trump to get favors because she accustomed doing them things. She wrote to the ambassador at one time to try to get sanctions on Trinidad and Tobago, the Rio Treaty. They wrote to the Australian opposition saying that this government involved in corrupt deals with the government of Australia. And they continue to do things like that. So you see, the UNC have one strategy. And they don't deviate from that because they're not creative in their thinking at all. It's all about the Indian and the Indian cause and for Indian people. That is a fact. You could go back in history and look at that. So I leave that right there. Mr. Chancellor, they would have expounded a lot on all the issues that have. So I just want to go right here with education because Mr. Charles raised it. I am very disturbed at we got that union there with the president of Dr. Indira Rampersad. Because again, I continue to say, some union leaders get themselves involved in politics. And when they get themselves involved in politics, when they go before the employer sometimes have to decipher whether or not is a politician in front of them or a president who is seeking the interests of the members. I am disheartened that in this day and age, 2025, that some unions continue to respond as back in the days of Butler. The days of Butler was one, the climate was very, it wasn't one that is conducive to working. It was very violent, very aggressive. So it needed that type of approach to come out and shut down and march and show your strength. Because we're still under the Master Servant Act, we work for the Queen. But there was a march to end that. We have the Industrial Civilization Act of 1965 that has been reviewed to Industrial Relation Act of 1972. When those things, we have grievance procedures, we have the opportunity now to go and sit down and negotiate for workers' rights and conditions. We have the industrial court, we have Ministry of Labor and all those areas. So I'm very disturbed when the first response of a union, when they walk away from the negotiation table because they refuse to sit down and do the work, is to call out people and march on the street. But with regard to me, what is even more disturbing, they're pulling these studios into this and using them as pawns. That is my opinion. And we saw Dr. Indira Rampersad sitting down on a stage with the UNC during all the crime consultation, I am positive that is the same person. If it is not, my apologies to the goodly doctor. But if you continue on this political thing, and not only that, it shows the weakness of the union. If you can sit down at the table and negotiate for your members who pay you money to negotiate on their behalf, the employer is not going to negotiate for the workers. You have to do that. And if when you sit at the table, because you don't have the fortitude for your political agendas or personal agendas, you walk away as things don't go your way. And then what you do is shut down everything. But in this case, because you're shutting down everything, and the tone and how she's speaking on the papers when I read it, with the only exclamation mark, if you don't fight, you're going to shut down. Yeah, 20,000 student exams, you're not uploading the exam results for the students, and nobody can tell all you to go out and work, and all of this. What is this? You have children sitting down waiting on the grade. They can't go and register to do internship. They can't move on because they don't have the grade. They can't apply for dates for the next semester because they don't have the results. And that is what all they talk about will put the government in such a state that because of that all they get all the money. Well, if guys will get all the money, I feel it's better let this man wake up. Because that is not how we do things. Because all your lecturers are supposed to be looking after the mental health and not abuse the children because they're going through stress right now. They did the work, they did the exam, and all they holding back the results because all they fighting for money for all them. Who causes that? All they sat back since 2014 and keep saying it. And did nothing. If all they're saying that the management or the government or the employer is supposed to negotiate with all the for terms and conditions employment, and time passing and nothing happening, why all they take them to court for breach of industrial offense for not meeting and sitting with all them for the purpose of negotiation? All they're sitting there and all that time pass, and then with that case now, all they're suffering and stressing. The students who can't get a grade, the students is not to blame for the inefficiencies. I am disappointed. I'm disgusted by Dr. Sheila Rampatad and the way that she's going about with her union members in treating with them to get the increases in salary. I have nothing against them for marching for the money. I am not against them. They need to bash for whatever they need to get. I their business. But do not pull the children, the students under all the care into this chaos and madness. I'm not talking about madness Monday and the next time it's blackout and come now, man. All you only hurting the students, and again if all they have to resort to that to get all they want, all they weak, all they worth anything, all they creative in thinking, all they just going back to what Butler used to do, so they will never go to mediation, conciliation, negotiation. All they want to do them thing. It just come out on the road and march. And then all this collateral damage, right? We children, we Indian children, the African children, all we children had to suffer because of all the inefficiency. I am very disheartened this morning as somebody in the union movement who support the union movement to see that it's where it reached now. And again, I want to end by saying, I am not concerned in marching for the money. That is up to them. And trying to get what they need to get for members, that is up to them. I can't vex with somebody for that. But it's the way that they're doing it, which is disgusting and disheartening, because students are under serious stress. And I hope that some students are able to have the support, that they don't take this on in such a way that it affects them emotionally or mentally. Dominic, have a blessing.
Thank you, Jen. Let me just respond to this guy again. Caribbean Soul. I don't know. This is why I don't like to read. I don't like to read comments. So let me just educate you again. All right. Where is the comment? There's just so many things. Let me get it. Where is it? Here. Where is it? Right. You're saying Petrotron never used to only sell oil, so what is your point? Let me read it again for you, Papi. Let me read it again for you, because like your common sense this morning on E. The fall in the gross refining margin at Petrotrin is a feature of worldwide oversupply. Refining. We're not talking nothing here about selling oil. Where you get that from? Right? Where did you get that from? I don't understand. I'm talking about refining. Let me explain it to you. What they were basically saying is that for every barrel of oil that they produce, what they get out of that barrel of oil and they sell it, it was worth less than the barrel of oil. Petrotrin was importing 100,000 plus barrels of oil per day. And this is the thing I don't understand at all. They're talking about how the refinery was a net earner of foreign exchange and it was making foreign exchange. And now that they shut down the refinery, we get the foreign exchange. What were they paying using to pay for the oil? The 100,000 barrels of oil per day, what were they using? Pesos? What were they using? Drachma? TT dollars? Is the same US dollars that they were using to import the 100,000 barrels of oil per day? Is the same US they're using now to import the fuel? The same US. When we talk about the refining margin, I didn't talk nothing about selling oil. The refinery was making money by doing what? Refining the oil and selling the refined products. They were selling fuel to the airlines, not just Caribbean Airlines, but when it is that the other airlines come here and they need to refuel, they will purchase the jet fuel from NP and they make money. Petrotrin was also selling refined products, fuel to other Caribbean countries. In fact, as I've told you all before, NP has a chain of gas stations in Dominica. It's probably the largest. But I stand to be corrected, right? Because when I went there last year, I saw that. I wasn't aware that NP had gas stations in Dominica. So that's how they were making money, by selling the fuel. They are still doing that. They are importing fuel, not just for Trinidad and Tobago, but they're importing additional fuel to continue to supply the markets that the refinery was supplying. And they're still making money because guess what? NP still has to fuel its gas stations in Dominica. The refining, this is what I'm talking about. So I don't understand what I'm talking about. What is my point? The point is that the refineries were not making money. Do you understand what I mean by the margins, the refining margins? They kept saying that for every barrel of oil that we refine, when whatever it is comes out from that one barrel of oil, when we sell it, we're making less money. So we pay $100 for the barrel of oil, but when we sell the refined products that this one barrel of oil produces, we only get it $80. So we're losing $20 or we're losing $10 on a barrel. So that makes sense? You pay $100 for a barrel of oil, refine it, and then you only make $90, so you lose $10 on every barrel. That is what the point was, that you're all not getting that. And it wasn't only happening in Trinidad. We were not producing enough oil here, and even if we were, the fact of the matter is that the quality of the crude that we were producing here was not for the refinery. We producing, they keep talking about the heavy crude and all of this. You don't understand that? Today, the reason why it is that Heritage making profits is because they're still selling the oil. Paria making profits. Why? Because they're still selling fuel to other Caribbean countries the same way the refinery was doing it. The only thing now is that instead of us having to spend millions of dollars to import the oil and then refine it, sell what we refine at a loss, because as I explained before, now you don't have the expenses of the refinery, which includes maintenance of the refinery, paying the salaries for the workers, and all the other benefits that you have to pay for the workers, and paying for the utilities and all the other expenses that the refinery would have incurred. So it makes more sense to buy refined fuel outside, to supply the local market, continue to supply other Caribbean countries that you were providing to, and you don't have the expenses associated with the refinery. How difficult is that for you all to understand? And it's the same US you were using to purchase the 100,000 barrels of oil per day is the same US that we're using to purchase the refined fuel. We replace one purchase with another. How that not sinking into all your brain, I don't understand. But then I understand, because you all are supporters of that party. Jeez, and it was the time there? 9:03. I taken 2 more calls and then that's it. I'm done. I ain't able this morning. Well, it frustrate me. I'm not able. Just now, let me just get this call here. Just now. Right. Let me get this here. Hello, good morning. Hello.
Good morning, Dr. my darling.
Morning, I'm good, and yourself?
Ignore people. Watch them and laugh as they're crazy. Hate makes no sense. Right? They hate, they PN him. Just because of rumors. There's me and there's me, right? So you have to know the true me. Hate doesn't want to know the true Dominic. You know why? If you're anti-UNC, no, you are pro-nation.
Yes.
Right? Now, Kamala wrote J. Biden, right? Years ago for sanction. Is she a good mother? No mother, right? No. Is she a mommy? A mother carry a child in the womb, but a mommy will carry a child in their heart till the dying day. Because he abandoned, mommy says, he was a good child, No hero, But because her heart for 9 months carried him, and on the womb she carried him, that's a mommy. And there's a mother. She's a mother of the UNC. The mother of Indians only. Not a mommy of the nation. The same Mudari, but Nikasi Batoka now is the one you praised, you and Kevin Sutherland praised and loved so much. Your bad talk from then, now you're bad talking Biden. I keep those things on purpose. So I refute what she says. Kamala wants to be in politics. So she don't care how the brains do. I can cook it, right? I'm a good cook.
Right.
You see big red dumpling? For your sake, go to it. I know my gifting. You see spoken word? Good at that. Writing poems and songs and plays good at that. I cannot paint. So I can't talk your painting, but I can't paint. That's what she does. So equate Kamala to Maduro, to Trump, to Biden. She wants to live. So, today I love Maduro, tomorrow I hate him. I love Trump today, tomorrow I hate him. Now she loves, why she loves Trump? Because she's hoping, her life is a cobweb that died. Cobweb string dieting? Cobweb string dieting. It's over precipice, an abysmal precipice. So by any means necessary, if you love your nation, and at your own race, you will see that if I do this, what happened to my nation? Nation I want to rule and govern. What happens then? Because Joel, what's his name? The man with the best penis? Is a man. So you telling Trump about woke Kamala? You had a woke in a party. They say you are Zami, means lesbian. So Kamala, what are you writing about? Yourself? Just put yourself in public domain. You are hypocrite. You are senile, and you're evil. And history will remember you, You don't have any love for anyone but yourself. And you can't govern a nation, different people. Rowdy must go. Rowdy must go. Ain't it going now? But you still have an issue with Mr. Young. He is civic-minded. He is a son of the soil. His blood is red, Kamala. right? Israel is red. There's no curry heaven or Chinese hell. Choose this day whom you would serve. And Kama, you are serving yourself. In your eyes, you have become a god. But you know what? Your days as a leader will be cut off very soon. Them are gone. Be blessed. Have a wonderful day.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. All right. So, folks, I have to leave it there, unfortunately. I really have to leave it there. I've already gone over time and I have an appointment for 10 o'clock. So, as always, thank you all for joining me. Always a pleasure. But let me just say, I was making a point earlier with respect to, those who wishing for, but the same Caribbean soul and talking about, what was it in respect of Maduro and Venezuela, and Kamala never said nothing about things. Because he said Kamala never said anything about the Dragon gas deal is Maduro, who they have an issue with. They want to get rid of Maduro. Why? Because they say Maduro rigged the elections and it wasn't free and fair and democracy and so on. It's interesting, right? So Maduro must go because. But Vladimir Putin has been accused on at least the previous 2 occasions when he was elected of not only rigging the elections, but of also attempting to, and in some cases, assassinating his opponents. The most recent being Alexei Navalny, right? Who died under mysterious circumstances in a Russian prison. Let us not forget that. But yet still Donald Trump embraces him. But Maduro, who is not accused of killing anybody, they want to take out Maduro. Talk about double standards, right? He embraces Putin, who is accused of murder, locking up and assassinating his opponents, preventing them from being able to contest elections. And in Venezuela, they just accused Maduro of running elections that were not free and fair. And Maduro, we had to get rid of him. And all these people who are taking pleasure, who happy, they had to get rid of Maduro. But let me tell you something. When you all want to talk about, is Maduro they have an issue with, and they want to put the other guy to install him because he win the election. Okay, put him there, and what do you think is going to happen? You know what he says? He says that Maduro was an illegitimate president, and therefore any agreements that he signed is also illegitimate. Okay? So putting him there does not mean necessarily that things going to work out. Okay? And the fact of the matter is, Venezuela needs the money. So then you have to go and now restart the whole process to sit down with these people to renegotiate when things should have already been in place. So all who are advocating for Maduro to go and figure out if a new regime comes into place that everything is all well and good. No, but just remember, we need the Dragon gas. Manatee will help, but we need Dragon and we need Lauren. And the best chances that we had for that was for Kamala Harris to win. That didn't happen. So what we got to do? It is what it is. But we will see what the next few months bring. Yes, my phone is still ringing, but folks, I have to go. As I said, I really, really need to go. So I don't know. I just don't know. Let me see here. Thank you all again. Gato Gonda is saying even if it was Guaido, they would still have opposed because they still oppose the deal with Australia for the votes. And that is correct. The Venice need the money, but we will also backing up Maduro. I hear what? I'll go on. Tell them all who call in for sanctions on Stuart Young. Just remember, because of the arrangements, the negotiations with Venezuela. Raul Gonzalez went to the inauguration of Nicolas Maduro the other day. Stuart Young didn't go. Dr. Rowley didn't go. So don't forget to call for sanctions for Raul Gonzalez too, right? And don't forget call for sanctions as well for David Abdullah and the MSJ, because Abdullah is on record as having said that they sent a delegation to Venezuela last year to witness the elections. They sent elections observers, and that everything in the election was free and fair. And David Abdullah of the MSJ is of the view that Nicolas Maduro is the legitimate president of Venezuela. He's on record as having said that. Right? Not just because and that he's calling him comrade. They sent up election observers, and they said everything was free and fair. So don't only call for sanctions on Stuart Young and Dr. Rowley. Call for sanctions on David Abdullah too, and call for sanctions on Raul Gonzalez, the Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Okay, because he was there. There's video footage. Stuart, he was not sure he probably got our invitation. He didn't go. Okay, just thought I would mention that for you all. So this is the. So we'll chat again on Thursday morning, folks. So true. They don't like the facts when they come in with misinformation. Yeah, well, we'll see. I want to see when Mr. Trump speaks to Mr. Putin. Because remember, Vladimir Putin and Nicolas Maduro are good friends. Eh? Let us not forget that. So I don't know how that's going to work out. If Trump is now going to move on Maduro, and how Mr. Putin is going to treat with that. Because just the other day, they're talking about there was some Russian ship or Navy ship or whatever it is, went to Venezuela and all this kind of thing. So Maduro and Putin are very good friends, right? Trump and Putin are very good friends. So let's see. Who knows? Maybe Mr. Putin might intervene and tell Trump, hey, leave Nicolas alone now. It could be one big happy family. He's not a bad guy, you want to organize and we can have a little line. We can play a little all fours and thing and you get to know him better. Let's hope. All right, folks. we will chat again. Yes, Mikel is saying Cambon's son was there as an election observer. Oh, I didn't know that. Thank you for that bit of information, Mikel. Yeah. All right. Interesting. So, like, we had a call for sanctions on Cambon's son too. And yeah, Emancipation Support Committee by extension. Oh boy. Folks, Thursday, we will chat. Oh gosh. Where is this thing?